There comes a time when the sky is no longer silent, a time when the heavens tremble and the winds carry whispers of things yet to come. We stand on the threshold of 2025, a year that is not just another in the turning of calendars, but a year of reckoning, a year of revelation. The Harbingers of Lightning have arrived. Lightning does not simply appear, it is preceded by signs, the gathering of clouds, the charge in the air, the stillness before the storm. So it is with history, with nations, with the soul of a people. Before the great shifts, before the awakenings, before the judgments, there are signs. They are not random, they are warnings, declarations, signals to those who have eyes to see and ears to hear. In the ancient days when lightning struck, it was seen as a message, a voice from beyond, a decree from the heavens. It was the mark of power, of judgment, of transformation. And now, as we look to 2025, we see the patterns forming once again. The world is trembling. Nations are at the brink. The order of things that seemed immovable is shaking. Technology, war, morality, economies, all are standing on the precipice of something vast. Do we not see the signs? The storms of history are rising. Those who have placed their trust in the structures of man are beginning to realize that those structures are fragile. Empires have fallen before. Civilizations have been overturned. And yet, through the rising and the falling, through the darkness and the dawn, a greater purpose is at work. Lightning can destroy, but it can also illuminate. It can strike down, but it can also awaken. The question before us is not whether the lightning will come. It will come, but what we will do when it does. Will we cower in fear, or will we stand as those who understand the times? 2025 will be a year of shifting, a year of exposure, a year when what was hidden will be revealed, what was whispered in secret will be shouted from the rooftops. The Harbingers of Lightning do not come to entertain, nor do they come in vain. They come with a purpose, to call, to warn, to prepare. The winds are moving, the atmosphere is charged, and the storm is drawing near. What will we do in the days ahead? The answer does not lie in the powers of this world, nor in the wisdom of man, but in something higher. The signs are before us. The lightning is at the door. And 2025 will not be a year like any other. 8 key points of the speech. Lightning does not come unannounced. It is always preceded by signs, and history follows the same pattern. The events of 2025 are not random, but part of a larger unfolding. The harbingers are here, the shifting of nations, the trembling of economies, the unraveling of old orders. All are signals of a coming storm. Lightning carries a message. In ancient times, it was seen as a decree from the heavens, a sign of power, judgment, and transformation. The same holds true now. The structures of man are fragile. Those who trust in human institutions will see their weakness as 2025 exposed the instability of what once seemed unshakable. The past is a shadow of the present. Empires have risen and fallen before, and history is repeating itself, calling those who understand to be awake. Lightning can destroy, but it can also awaken. It depends on how we respond. The storm ahead is both a threat and an opportunity. 2025 will be a year of revelation. What was hidden will be brought to light, and the world will see truths that were long concealed. The time to prepare is now. The storm is not something to fear, but something to be ready for. Those who understand the signs will stand firm, while those who ignore them will be swept away. Lightning does not come unannounced. It is always preceded by signs, by signals in the heavens, by whispers in the air. It does not appear from nowhere, but rather it is born from the unseen forces that gather long before the strike. The same is true of history, of nations, of destinies. Nothing happens in isolation. Every great shaking, every transformation, every collapse or rising is preceded by signs. Signs that those who are awake will recognize, but those who sleep will ignore. A storm does not begin with rain. It begins with a shift in the winds, a thickening of the air, a charge that builds long before the first flash. The coming of lightning is the final act, the culmination of forces that have been moving in secret. So it is with the great events of our time. The world does not wake up one morning to find itself changed without warning. The signs are always there for those who have eyes to see. In ancient times, men watched the heavens for omens, a change in the stars, a sudden stillness in the wind, the unnatural silence before the storm. These were understood as messages. They knew that when the sky darkened in a certain way, when the animals moved in unusual patterns, when the air grew thick with a presence unseen, it was not random, it was a sign. It was a harbinger of what was to come. Now, as we look to the world around us, we see the same pattern unfolding. The events of 2025 will not be a sudden strike from nowhere. They are already forming, already gathering, already speaking to those who will listen. The foundations of the old ways are trembling. The pillars of certainty are beginning to crack. And yet many go on as if nothing is happening. But the wise, the watchful, the discerning, they sense the shift. They see the gathering of clouds. They feel the charge in the air. Empires do not fall in a day, but they do fall, and before they do, there are signs, warnings, tremors, cracks in the walls. Rome did not collapse overnight. It weakened, it decayed, it was warned, and yet it did not listen. The great civilizations of old, Babylon, Persia, Greece, they all stood mighty, invincible in their own eyes, and yet they ignored the harbingers. They failed to see the writing on the wall, and so they fell, their greatness becoming ruins, their glory becoming dust. We stand now in a time of warning. The signs are present. The world is shifting in ways unseen before. The rise and fall of economies, the stirring of nations, the shaking of foundations once thought unmovable. These are not mere coincidences. These are the precursors, the whispers before the thunder, the signals before the strike. And when the lightning comes, it will not be unexpected to those who have been watching. The question is not whether the signs exist, but whether we are willing to see them. Are we awake or are we asleep? Are we watchful or are we blind? Because lightning does not come unannounced. It never has, it never will. The harbingers are here, they have arrived, not in the form of distant warnings or subtle whispers, but as undeniable signs moving across the earth. The world is shifting, and the tremors of change can no longer be ignored. The rise and fall of nations, the shaking of economies, the unraveling of old orders, these are not isolated events. They are pieces of a greater puzzle, indicators of a turning point in history. What was once firm is now unsteady. What was once hidden is now being exposed, and what was once unthinkable is now unfolding before our very eyes. There was a time when the foundations of the world seemed immovable, when people believed that nations stood unshaken, that systems endured forever. But history has never worked that way. Every empire that once believed in its own invincibility has in time met its end. The world has seen it before. The slow decline of power, the corrosion from within, the sudden collapse that shocks the unprepared. The harbingers always come first, signs that are ignored by those who refuse to see. But for those who are awake, the signs are clear. Look around. The economic structures that once held the world together are now unstable, teetering on the edge. Nations that once stood as pillars of strength now find themselves divided, weakened from within. The moral fabric of societies is unraveling, replaced by confusion and chaos. And beyond all this, a greater shaking is taking place, one that is not just political or financial but spiritual. These are not ordinary events. They are warnings, messages written in the unfolding of time, calling for attention. When a storm is coming, there are those who sense it before it arrives. The air thickens, the wind changes, the pressure builds. The same is true in this moment. The harbingers are not simply predictions of future events. They are the forerunners of what is already in motion. The shifts have begun, the foundations are cracking, and history is accelerating toward a moment of reckoning. Those who believe that tomorrow will be like yesterday deceive themselves. The pace of change is increasing, and the signs are all around us. Throughout history, there have always been those who ignored the warnings. The people of Noah's day watched as the ark was built, but did not believe until the rains came. The rulers of ancient empires dismissed the signs until their walls fell, and so it is now. Many will continue as if nothing is happening, as if the world will always remain the same, but those who understand the times know that this is not so. The harbingers have come not to entertain, not to cause fear, but to awaken. They declare that the time of complacency is over. The days ahead will not be as the days behind. The world is being prepared for something greater, something more intense, something beyond what most can imagine, and the question remains, who will see, who will hear, who will prepare, because the harbingers are not coming, they are already here. Lightning carries a message. It is not a random force, nor a meaningless flash in the sky. It is a declaration, a voice that speaks from the heavens. In the ancient world, people understood this. They looked to the sky, not just in fear, but in reverence. When the lightning struck, it was seen as a sign, a warning, a moment of reckoning. It was the mark of power beyond human control, a reminder that there is something greater at work, something that commands attention. Lightning does not ask permission to strike. It moves with authority, cutting through the sky, splitting the darkness, shaking the earth. It is a force that cannot be contained, and when it comes, it demands a response. It is not a passive event. It is active, decisive, and unignorable. So it is with the great events of history, the turning points that reshape nations and generations. They do not arrive gently or without warning. They come with power, with clarity, with purpose. In every age, there have been moments when the world was struck by a revelation, when something was made clear that had long been hidden. These moments do not arise from nowhere. They are the culmination of what has been building in secret, the release of an unseen charge that had been gathering all along. The world believes in gradual change, in slow progress, in predictable patterns. But history does not always move that way. There are moments when everything shifts in an instant, when the hidden is exposed, when the comfortable is shattered. These are the moments of lightning. And now the world is standing on the edge of such a moment. The signs have been gathering, the air is thick with expectation, and the tension is ready to break. What has been concealed will be revealed. What has been tolerated will be confronted. What has remained in the shadows will be brought into the light. The message of lightning is not just one of power, but of exposure. It reveals what was always there, but unseen. It shows the truth, whether or not people are ready to see it. There are those who fear the lightning, who try to avoid its presence, who seek shelter from its truth. They prefer the darkness, where things remain hidden, where nothing is disturbed. But lightning does not allow that. It breaks through the illusions, it tears apart deception, it leaves nothing the same. Those who are wise do not fear the message of lightning, they prepare for it. They understand that when it strikes, it is a call to awaken, to act, to respond. The world is on the brink of revelation. The harbingers of lightning have already arrived, and the moment of striking is drawing near. What has been ignored will no longer be ignored. What has been dismissed will no longer be dismissed. The time of quiet deception is ending, and the time of undeniable truth is at hand. The message of lightning is clear. The only question is, who will listen? The structures of man are fragile. They stand tall, they appear strong, they give the illusion of permanence, but they are not unshakable. History has shown this truth time and time again. The greatest empires, the most powerful institutions, the grandest systems built by human hands all have one thing in common: they do not last forever. What seems immovable today can collapse tomorrow. What appears indestructible can fall in an instant. People place their trust in these structures. They believe that governments will always stand, that economies will always recover, that technology will always advance, that the systems of the world will remain as they are. But this is an illusion. Nations rise and nations fall. The financial systems that once ruled the world have crumbled into dust. The greatest cities of the past, filled with wealth and power, now lie in ruins. The rulers who once thought themselves gods are now mere names in history books. It is easy to believe that the modern world is different, that the systems in place today are somehow immune to the forces that have brought down civilizations before. But the same patterns that led to the downfall of empires in the past are present now. The cracks are forming. The foundations are weakening. And yet, many refuse to see. They hold on to the belief that the structures they trust in will stand forever, that the institutions they depend on will always provide stability, that the pillars of modern civilization will remain firm. But they will not. The signs are already here. Economies that once thrived are now on the brink of collapse. Governments that once ruled with confidence are now divided and uncertain. The moral fabric of society, which once held people together, is unraveling. The world has placed its trust in money, in power, in technology, in human wisdom. But all of these are fragile. All of these can fail, and when they do, those who have built their lives upon them will find themselves standing on nothing. The world moves forward as if it is invincible, as if progress is guaranteed, as if nothing can reverse what has been built. But lightning does not ask permission before it strikes. A storm does not wait for a convenient moment to arrive. When the time comes, it comes suddenly, and those who have trusted in the strength of man-made structures will see just how weak they truly are. There is a reason why history repeats itself. It is not because people do not remember. It is because they refuse to believe that what happened before could happen again. The empires of the past thought they were untouchable. They were wrong. The leaders of once mighty nations believed their rule would never end. They were mistaken. And now, once again, the world stands on the edge of a great shaking. A moment when the structures of man will be tested and found wanting. The question is not if they will fall, the question is when. The past is a shadow of the present. What has been before is not gone. It lingers, it echoes, it repeats. The events unfolding today are not new. They are patterns, cycles, the same script written on different pages of time. History is not random. It moves with purpose, with precision, with warnings for those who will listen. The rise and fall of nations, the shifting of empires, the collapse of civilizations, these are not isolated events. They are part of a larger story, a story that continues to unfold in our own time. The world believes in progress, in the idea that humanity moves forward, leaving the past behind. But the truth is something else. The past does not disappear. It returns. The lessons of history are written in blood and stone, in ruins that once stood as monuments to human greatness. Those who walk through the ancient streets of fallen cities see the remains of what once was. A civilization that believed it would last forever. A people who thought their kingdom was unshakable, yet the walls that once protected them now lie in dust. The temples where they worshipped are silent. The streets that once bustled with life are abandoned. They did not believe they would fall, but they did. The same forces that brought down the mighty in ages past are at work today. The arrogance of rulers, the corruption of power, the decay of morality, the blindness of those who refuse to see, these are not new. They are ancient. They have always led to the same end, and now they are present once again. The world has convinced itself that it is different, that the past is behind us, that history no longer applies. But this is a deception. The past is not dead, it is alive, repeating itself before our very eyes. The great civilizations of history, Egypt, Babylon, Greece, Rome, they all stood at the height of power. They all ruled the known world. They all believed they would never fall. Yet they did, and not without warning. The signs were there: the moral decay, the economic instability, the division, the complacency, the refusal to listen to the warnings. The people lived as if nothing would change, as if they were beyond the reach of judgment. Then, in a moment, everything shifted. The walls were breached, the cities burned, the empires collapsed. The great and mighty became nothing more than a memory. Now the same patterns are unfolding once more. The warnings are being given. The cracks are forming. The storm is approaching. Yet, just as before, many refuse to see. They believe their world is secure, that their nation is immune, that their time is different. But it is not different. It is the same pattern, the same cycle, the same illusion of invincibility. The past is not behind us. It is with us. It is with us in the past. It is a shadow cast over the present, revealing what is to come. The question is not whether history will repeat itself, but whether we will recognize it before it does. The storm does not come without a warning. Before the first drop of rain, before the first gust of wind, there are signs, subtle at first, then undeniable. The air grows heavy, the sky darkens, and nature itself seems to hold its breath. There is an awareness, a tension that fills the atmosphere. The wise recognize it, the unprepared ignore it. But whether acknowledged or not, the storm will come. So it is with the great events of history. Before the upheavals, before the collapse of empires, before the shaking of the world, there are always warnings. They come in many forms. Voices crying out, signs in the land, disturbances in the natural order. Those who are awake will see them. Those who are asleep will dismiss them as nothing. But the warnings are not given in vain. They are the final call before the strike. The warnings come to shake people from their slumber. They are not sent to bring fear, but to prepare to awaken, to stir the hearts of those who will listen. But history has shown that when the warnings are given, most turn away. They do not want to hear. They cover their ears and go about their lives as if nothing is changing. They convince themselves that the warnings do not apply to them, that their world will remain as it is. They laugh, they mock, they dismiss, but reality is not shaped by human denial. It is shaped by truth. And the truth does not change simply because people refuse to see it. The people of Noah's day were warned. They watched as the ark was built. They heard the message. They saw the signs. Yet they continued as if nothing would happen. They ate, they drank, they celebrated. They carried on with their lives as if the world was not about to change forever. Then the rains came, and when they finally realized the truth, it was too late. So it was with the great cities of the past. Warnings were given, but they went unheeded. The people of Pompeii lived in comfort under the shadow of the mountain, ignoring the tremors beneath their feet. Then in an instant destruction came. The prophets spoke to Israel, warning of what was to come if the nation did not turn from its path. But the words were rejected, and the city of Jerusalem fell. Empires heard the warnings, but chose to believe in their own strength, and every one of them in time collapsed. Now once again, the warnings are sounding, the signs are visible, the foundations are trembling, yet the world moves forward as if nothing is happening. The warnings are not given forever. They come for a time, and then they stop. When the final warning is given, when the last call has been made, there will be no more time to prepare. The question is not whether the warnings are being given. The question is whether they will be heard. Because the storm does not come without a warning. But when it comes, it will be too late to prepare. 2025 will be a year of revelation. It will not be a year of subtle changes or gradual shifts. Rather, it will be a year in which what has been hidden will be brought to light. Truths that have long been concealed in the darkness, buried beneath layers of deception, will be exposed for all to see. The quiet whispers in the shadows will no longer remain secrets. What was once swept under the rug, ignored, or swept away by the tides of time will be brought to the forefront. The veil will be lifted, and the world will be forced to confront the truths that it has long avoided. The age of secrets is ending. The time of silence is drawing to a close. In 2025, the things that people have tried to hide, deny, or dismiss will become impossible to ignore. The events that unfold will shine a spotlight on what was once unseen. There will be revelations on a global scale about governments, about corporations, about the systems that hold power. The truth will not be something that can be brushed aside, nor will it be easily silenced. What has been veiled in darkness will be illuminated, and the world will see the raw truth of what has been taking place behind closed doors. It is easy to ignore the things that are hidden from view. People can carry on with their daily lives, distracted by the noise of the world, blind to the truths that lie beneath the surface. But there comes a time when the truth can no longer remain concealed. The pressure of secrecy, of lies, of corruption becomes too great, and it breaks through. The events of 2025 will be those moments of exposure. What was once thought secure will be shaken, and those who thought they were safe in their deception will be revealed. This will not be limited to the political or economic spheres. It will touch every aspect of life, the moral fabric of society, the relationships between people, the very foundations upon which communities are built. There will be revelations about the corruption of the soul, about the compromises made in silence, about the things people have allowed to fester in the darkness of their hearts. The truth will expose not just systems, but individuals. Each one who has allowed the lies to take root in their lives will be confronted with the reality of their choices. But this revelation is not just about exposure, it is about transformation. The truth has a power to both destroy and heal, to both divide and unite. Those who have hidden behind falsehoods will be exposed, but those who have lived in truth will find themselves vindicated. The time of reckoning is not just for the guilty, but also for the innocent. The Great Awakening will not be without pain, but it will be necessary for the renewal that follows. Those who have lived in the light will see the fruits of their faithfulness. Those who have clung to the shadows will be forced to face the consequences of their actions. 2025 will be a year when the world cannot hide from what it has done. The truth will not just be something that is spoken, it will be something that is revealed in full view. It will shake the foundations of what people thought they knew, and it will require them to reconsider everything. The truth will bring both conviction and freedom. It will bring destruction and rebirth, and the world will never be the same again. The coming moments are not just about events unfolding. They are about the awakening of people to the reality that the times are changing. The world has been lulled into a state of comfort, complacency, and routine. People have become accustomed to a predictable, structured world where systems seem reliable, economies stable, and societal norms unshakable. But these comforts are the very things that mask the shifting tides. The present moment holds a deeper meaning than what is immediately visible. There is an awakening stirring beneath the surface, a quiet yet undeniable movement toward awareness. This awakening is not just about understanding the signs of the times. It is about being prepared to respond to them. This awakening is not one that is driven by external forces alone. It is a collective stirring of hearts and minds, a revelation of the deeper purpose for each individual and society as a whole. People are beginning to recognize that the world they have known is not as secure as they thought. The values they have held are being questioned. The systems they have trusted are proving fragile. The old assumptions about power, wealth, and stability are being shaken. And in the midst of this shaking, there is an emerging awareness, a sense that something more is happening. It is as if people are beginning to see beyond the surface, to look beyond the distractions, and to question everything they have accepted without thinking. This awakening calls for an individual response. It calls for an engagement with the times, a willingness to look at the signs and understand them, not just as isolated occurrences, but as part of a greater pattern that is unfolding. It asks each person to question their own role in the larger narrative, to reflect on the choices they are making, and to prepare for the future that is coming. This awakening is not passive. It is an active call to engage with reality, to confront the truth, and to make decisions that will affect the course of history. It is easy to ignore the shifts that are happening in the world when they seem small or distant. But the awakening does not allow for indifference. It compels individuals to wake up and recognize that the choices they make, the way they live, the way they interact with the world, all have consequences. It demands that people ask themselves difficult questions about their own lives, their relationships, and their place in a world that is changing. The awakening calls them to realize that they are part of something bigger, that their lives are connected to the larger fabric of humanity, and that they cannot remain detached or passive in the face of the coming changes. In this awakening, there is a deeper call to return to the values that endure beyond the fleeting trends of culture. Beyond the shifting opinions of the world, the awakening calls for a return to principles that are anchored in truth, in justice, in love, and in integrity. It calls for individuals and nations to reconsider what is truly important and to align themselves with the deeper values that give life meaning. Those who respond to the awakening will find themselves standing on firmer ground. They will find clarity in the midst of chaos, purpose in the midst of uncertainty, and peace in the face of turmoil. But those who resist it, who continue to live in denial or ignorance, will be swept away by the winds of change. The time is coming when everyone will have to decide whether they will embrace the awakening or remain asleep as the world around them is transformed. It is not a choice that can be avoided. The awakening is inevitable, and it is here to stay. As we look toward 2025, the world stands on the precipice of profound change. The Harbingers of Lightning are already making their presence known, signaling the arrival of a momentous shift. The structures we have built, the systems we have trusted, the illusions we have believed in, they are all facing unprecedented challenges. What was once hidden will be revealed, the past will return to confront us, and the warning signs will no longer be ignored. We are living in a time when truth will be exposed in ways we cannot deny, when the storm will come with a force that will leave no stone unturned. The awakening is upon us, calling for a response from every individual, every nation, every society. Those who choose to awaken to the signs and prepare for what is coming will find themselves equipped to face the challenges ahead. Those who remain indifferent will be caught unprepared. The question before us is not whether change is coming, it is here. The question is whether we will respond, whether we will see the signs, heed the warnings, and embrace the awakening that calls us to a higher understanding, a deeper purpose, and a more resilient future. The Harbingers of Lightning are flashing brightly across the sky. The time to act is now. The future is unfolding, and it is up to each of us to decide what part we will play in this unfolding story.